given a challenge to come after Professor Pant and talk about anything. I think he just sets the bar so high. So I'll try my best. The ideas that I want to talk about are in the domain of a zone where we have spent the last 6 or 7 years of our lives building 2 startups. One is in the sector of knowledge entrepreneurship, and the other is a design company that helps Fortune 500 companies to startups launch businesses or relaunch businesses. So I want to actually come from a perspective where Professor Pant gave a fantastic analogy of how we need to prepare the millions and millions of users that are just entering the workforce or are already there, like all of us, professionals, entrepreneurs who have actually started their journeys. So how do we prepare them? What do we do that's actually scaling it up, that's getting to the number of people that really need to be trained? So I think it's a well-known fact that a big leap's been taken. I don't know how many of you are aware of Alexa.
Seats are a little bit limited.
So is everybody aware of Alexa here? Has everybody seen Alexa devices? There is an interesting video, seems like it's not playing here. So this kid starts asking Alexa about playing a song. And Alexa, instead of playing the song, starts talking about pornography. Scary, isn't it? And that's one of the biggest worries that as parents, as people who give access to all these devices to kids face on a day-to-day basis. This is a real case, and a few days back something else happened. There was this lady working in the kitchen, and suddenly Alexa started saying, "When I sleep, I see dead people." Out of the blue. So there was nothing programmed, no question asked, Alexa was on, and she was scared, she was spooked. How did this happen? On the other hand, Amazon's been working to fix these algorithms for a long time. The video that I actually wanted to show you talks about the advances that they have taken for kids-based filters. So they launched just 2 months back a new device called Alexa for Kids. So these are Echo Dots, the other Echo devices that are powered with all the filters that parents could actually apply into the devices, and make sure that the children do not get access to stuff that they shouldn't be hearing at that tender age. I wish I could show the video. Just see if you this really sets the context.
You can transfer the video. Connect
actually, I'm already. इस पे इंटरनेट है? अच्छा.
अलेक्सा हो सकता है दादाजी की जो फोटो टंगी है उसके बाद में बात कर रहा हूँ.
Alright, I think I'll be able to connect my laptop so that gives better. So sorry for this. I think it's important that we play the video. Alright, yeah, fantastic. I think this is going to work. So sorry for this. Should have asked Alexa to play a video. I know. I think I should work.
So, how do you spell pterodactyl?
P-T-E-R.
Alexa, please tell me a story. Alexa, tell me a dinosaur tale. Alexa, play Music Crew.
Let's play.
1 year on Neptune lasts about 165 Earth years. True or false?
True.
They can also listen to thousands of ad-free songs from kid-friendly playlists and radio stations.
Alexa, please play some music.
Getting kids hits from iHeartRadio.
Hey guys, dinner time.
With Drop-In, it's easy to check in on the kids. And with customizable parental controls, you can pause Alexa for dinner or bedtime. You can also monitor activity from the Amazon Parent dashboard.
All done for now. We can play again later.
Make it up. Alexa, turn off the lights.
Okay.
One more.
Go for it.
Alexa, how many miles to the Andromeda Galaxy?
The Andromeda Galaxy is 14 quintillion, 931 quadrillion.
So this is a great power. I believe this is a leap that we didn't think of. The kids that used to ask questions to parents, teachers, and we didn't have answers for, I never got answers for. Now there are devices that are right in our bedrooms that are just training us to actually look at things that we never thought possible. The fear factor is developed from things like these.
Play ticker-ticker. Alexa, play ticker-ticker.
You want to hear a station for porn detective, porno region, hot chick amateur girl party sex. Okay, dildo region.
So parents freak out and obviously they have to stop the game. Now, should we be really scared? Because I saw in the group also a lot of people were asking about AI is going to take over, our jobs will be taken over, what are we going to do? You know, children are getting access to information they shouldn't be, they get it all the time. So lot of apprehensions and questions about this. And where I come from, I think it's extremely important to tie up the story together of how we actually looked at technologies and how people historically have benefited from things like these. If people know about Medici's, you know, in Florence, long time back there was this family of Medici's that were the most powerful family known to exist in Florence, and it was at the same time as Leonardo da Vinci. One key thing there was that they were actually standing atop all the inventions, discoveries, scientific breakthroughs that were actually facilitated by people like da Vinci, and that led to their rise in the entire Italian region as well as across Europe at that time. If we move forward in history, we know what happened when US harnessed the power of the atom. You know, they conquered. They had dollar actually became one of the strongest currencies. They dictated terms for everybody across the world, and something similar happened when internet came into existence. We had people all around scared this is going to take our jobs. Computers are out there. Similar factors and fears. But what happened really was people who could use internet, you know, companies that could harness the power, individuals that could utilize the power benefited immensely. So I think it's a really important thing because history has patterns repeating themselves over and over again. So we look at internet and we also remember about companies like Kodak, you know, that fell because they were not really adept at picking up the new technologies, making them a part of their business models. There are individuals that were made redundant, they were out of question, they were out of jobs because they were not ready to learn and jump onto the new bandwagons. I think one of the interesting factors to consider here is when internet came, what happened to the writers? So you remember people who used to write books, people who used to write in magazines, they just had a makeshift in their livelihoods. So everything about being a writer changed. Now people who were just amateurs, hobbyists, professionals, actors, everybody started writing. There was a new distribution channel that they could tap into. They could get their writing across the world with just a single click. They had new fans that they never thought were possible. So everything about a writer's profile, who was a writer, what he was doing, what he was writing, and how quickly was it getting across to readers, everything changed with the advent of internet. Similarly, we had a makeshift happen in the lives of teachers. And I think this was at the time of internet with AI, which is, I believe, is still at nascent stages for normal people to tap into the power of, though devices like Alexa are there are several others. But what happened with teachers is, I think, what kicked us to get into the platform business of Nourish, which I introduced just in a bit. Everything about what a teacher should teach changed, because there were new subjects that needed to be taught. And let's not just look at it from a student perspective in school, look at it from a professional or an entrepreneur's perspective. So if I'm running a company and if I want some design done for my organization, I need to learn a lot about it. Accounting, I need to learn about accounting, I need to learn about the new methods of digital marketing. I need to learn about how I develop content now for my target audiences to read. Every single aspect of my business has been transformed in the last 5 or 6 years. If I was sitting idle and not learning constantly, I would have been made irrelevant. And that's probably true for most of the businesses that we talk about. Not just businesses, it's impacted every single profession. So I have a team of about 25 people in my company, and I look at every single one of them, the learnings they have to go through to stay relevant and to compete with the other peers that are competing for the same jobs are just immense. You know, they have to learn so much. So what we needed to learn changed. We never needed to learn UI, UX earlier, design, accounting, some of the new methods of digital marketing, but all of this was needed now. So look at the teacher from that context. You know, this is an image of a teacher being portrayed as a Superman, and I think this is quite close to what in reality is. How do they teach changed? Because now the blackboard-based methods, you know, the normal classroom teachings going to change. Your peers have changed. You know, people who you teach, people who you interact with, they've all changed. We all need learning at this age. You know, I think teachers also will have to be looked at in that perspective. So I think all of these have completely gone to a different level. Now, the other factors about what changed also were influenced by the lifestyles, the access to technology, the devices that these people are using in their hands, you know, the speed with which they were accessing information. And everybody knows about millennials, boomers, and all the generations that have existed before. I think teachers needed to change the way they were teaching and what they were teaching, because there was a makeshift shift here. Now, how people were being taught also changed quite a bit, but then there are lessons from history that I think were quite important for us to keep in mind before we decided, okay, how these new teachers will teach. So we figured that taking an analogy of a Zen master, somebody who used to teach martial arts, they would help a student in introspection as a coach. So anybody who's teaching, the masters, the Zen masters or the martial artists, had to have a perfect or near perfect knowledge of the craft that they were teaching. There was a lot of room for amateurs to go in and teach, and that's one of the pitfalls of technology. On YouTube, you go and there are people who don't know anything about AI or internet or technology or whatever they're trying to teach, teaching people about those things. So it's really important that we look at teachers as somebody who can act as a coach and has mastered the subject. Deconstruct the subject. This was an extremely important thing at that time, and I think even now. Sequencing and discipline. So how do you sequence the learning that you are actually looking at, and how do you discipline the learner to go through all the aspects with all the proper steps followed. Metacognition, to think about how to really think, because you can only take the learner so far, and you have to give them the ability to be able to think for themselves and look at how they can keep improving at all times. And meta-learning is an important point here. Meta-learning is plainly defined as how to learn. If you don't teach a peer how to learn, you will give him the skill, but then you won't prepare him for the rapid changes that are going to come. So I believe these 5 steps broadly defined how they were going to teach. The most important question in front of us at that stage was, so who is it that's going to help us teach the next 100 million students, 100 million learners? And that is what we were trying to address. Now, looking at the traditional pitfalls of education, there was a big gap between industry and academia for a long time. And I think in a country like India, it still is a big gap. Even overseas, there are plenty of institutes that face this issue. Look at digital marketing. It didn't exist about 7 or 8 years back. I think institutes have been struggling quite a bit to grapple the nuisances of Facebook, Twitter, Google AdWords. So they had to redevelop curriculums. They had to bring in professionals who were amateurs, who were just learning it by themselves, and tell them, teach digital marketing now, because the traditional marketing is dying. When that happens, you have to just see, okay, who's the teacher anymore? This guy hasn't done a PhD. He hasn't gone through all the academic rigors and all the processes that he needed to be followed. You've got a guy who's just mastered this art by studying himself, by doing it for a couple of companies, and you've got to put him in the teacher's seat and let him teach all these kids or learners who are going to then apply it into corporations. So the entire model was flipped. And when that happened, we started looking at organizations, people who had skills in them, and these skills were unique. Things like UI, UX, digital marketing, AI, deep learning. How old are these concepts? Probably a few years. I mean, I know Vishal was working into other domains, and I think a few years back, maybe 3 or 4 years, is that? Yeah, so I mean, look at that. He had to be a learner to basically teach this. So we came up with the concept of Nourish, and the idea was find these people who have these pockets of knowledge, who have these skills that could be taught to learners at any level of their life. You know, lifelong learners, corporates, professional students, primary students, whoever it is, these skills are rare, but we need to find the masters. So I'll show you a quick video. It's a 50-second long video that talks about who are these teachers.
We live in a world where singers not just sing, they teach people to sing better. Their authors not just write, they help others write better too. Educators share their skills and knowledge with others. And premier institutions teach thousands using modern technology and one instructor. Meet Nourish, the only platform you need to build, launch, and sell your own online courses. On Nourish, you can use videos, PPTs, PDFs, and presentations to create content that users can learn from on any device, big or small. You can also deliver assessments to enhance the learning experience. Design amazing custom websites for your courses on your own domain using simple drag-and-drop actions. Sell these courses in various currencies that promote your brand. So, what would your online course be about?
So the entire concept of thinking about the platform was make everything automated. Put a lot of AI into problems that these new instructors are going to face. They'll have to build videos because the new generation learns from videos faster than they read. They don't want to read quite a bit. They just want nanobytes of learning put into video content that's engaging. So how do we help these people, these instructors, build those videos? We used several technologies, AI being a part of that. Microsoft recognized our work, and we were awarded by Microsoft Japan. We won an award of $120,000 last year for the efforts that we were trying to put in to automate all of this. The second component was videos are not easy to produce. So, you know, we wanted these entrepreneurs, these knowledge entrepreneurs, teachers also to be able to figure out a way to produce them easily. So we started working in algorithms that could guide them. If you're trying to teach your students something about, say, how metacognition works, you type the word metacognition, and the artificial intelligence in the platform will be able to show you things that, so the time, a few minutes. So it'll be able to show you ideas about how you can implement new images, new visuals to teach something better. And I think without taking too much time, I'll show you the kind of instructors that we figured would be able to teach much better, had a grasp of the skill. So TIE Delhi NCR fosters entrepreneurship. We figured that if we wanted, say, about 50,000 people to learn about investment, entrepreneurship, let's talk to them because they know how this is cracked. A lot of the best investors, some of their charter members are people who have invested in the first rounds of companies that we hear about now, including Flipkart, Amazon, Make My Trip, some of the largest organizations that India has seen. So these people were a part of a group that had the knowledge, so we got them to build all the courses from scratch, and this is what I built using our platform. We had somebody teaching design, so we said, why don't you build design? This is somebody from Pearl Institute of Design, and they built something for fashion. The AI on platform helps them to build these courses from scratch. The idea is that if you are able to put the knowledge out there, you have the authenticity of a master, and the content is well structured, deconstructed, sequenced, and you can act as a coach. The lessons from history, what I'm talking about again, you will be able to make the impact. So thank you so much. I think that's all I have to say. Last slide needs to be shown, which is a quote from Michelangelo. draw Antonio, and do not waste time. I think it's all about creation. We all need to be creators if we have to make an impact for the next 100 million users. Thank you.
So you see the challenge in organizing this, that there is